tonight. Really excited to have these two gentlemen on with me. I have Kevin Estrella and Michael Lee Hill. And let me get you Michael Lee Hill's bio. And this is incredible information I'd like to share. I'm sure you're familiar with him already. But imagine this, if you will, if you experience strange ET contact and happenings your entire life. They begin to communicate through telepathy, leading you to a cosmic spiritual truths regarding how thought create reality subject matter. They begin to reveal themselves in the physical in orbs of light plasma over Lake Erie. They allow you to film them. Your footage goes viral, gaining worldwide attention. Your footage lands you on a primetime TV show called UFO Hunters on the History Channel. On the episode, they decide to test your blood, and it is revealed you do not have normal human blood. The UFO Hunters uncover a very rare blood anomaly bloodline that the world's best military and civilian doctors are at a loss to explain. The host of the show, legendary UFO researcher Bill Burns, goes on to say, "I've got a funny feeling that you are being recruited, and there is a branch of the government that you are being recruited for, that somehow, some way, you are a hybrid between ET and humans, and they are giving you a course of study, preparing you to meet your ET higher self." That's quote unquote. Soon after the airing of the show, you are indeed contacted by this branch of the government called the Labyrinth Group, and offered a course of study. And I'm going to kind of scan through this here. It's incredible. We're going to get into where he's been, what he's been up to, but I'll tell you what, I'm very, very impressed. Michael Lee Hill is an award-winning musician, filmographer, and UFO experiencer. His footage of the Lake Erie UFOs has created a Billy Meier-like buzz, and this unassuming rocker seems to have developed an intuitive relationship with these craft. In his home state of Ohio, Michael has been cataloging video after video of UFOs over Lake Erie. What makes these different than most sightings is that the phenomena consists almost entirely of pulsating orbs of light. Characteristics. This is really interesting because I've seen these and they're just phenomenal. I'm sure y'all have too. Unusual light seen, changing colors, converging and separating over the lake. Stories of the unexplained phenomena date back over 150 years to the indigenous tribes. Michael's Lake Erie UFO footage has been featured on the Discovery Channel, Fox News, MSNBC, CBS News, Coast to Coast AM, Rents.com, HBCCUFO.org, and in the feature films UFOs Unplugged with Dan Aykroyd, and David Sereda's latest film, From Here to Andromeda, which Michael also co-produced. Michael has most recently been featured on the History Channel's UFO Hunters show and filmed a pilot for an alien UFO-based show for Spike TV in 2012 that was never aired for various reasons. The Unified Field. Excuse me. And Michael's website is michaelleehill.net. And I encourage you to take a good look at that. And let's get over to Kevin Estrella here. Inspired by the studies of UFOs, aliens, and the artifacts in our solar system, Pyramids on Mars is an embodiment of spacey music that brings both worlds together as both a musical concept and message to the world of the alien presence. Formed in 2011, Pyramids on Mars is the solo creation of guitarist, excuse me, as I lose my voice here, Kevin Estrella, who offers an oral palette of intense, emotional, three-dimensional, heavy, and melodic progressive rock metal that includes a range, I'm losing my voice, guys, of influences such as Baroque classical guitar, classical composers J.S. Bach and Antonio Vivaldi, along with today's guitar virtuoso Yngwie Malmsteen, I probably butchered that name, and Joe Satriani. Kevin's musical style is very similar to world-renowned rock guitarist Joe Satriani, and so much Kevin has nicknamed himself the Satriani of the North. He has been, capturing music industry attention, getting international radio airplay in the U.S., Canada, South America, and Europe. He is a regular guest on Brian the Hammer Jackson Radio out of Los Angeles to over 4 million listeners. And with over 86,000 Twitter followers and 5 million tweets views in 2016 alone, the Pyramids on Mars fan base is growing exponentially. The world is discovering the music of Pyramids on Mars. Kevin is also one of few musicians who have their very own radio show, which is awesome. And they can tune into Pyramids on Mars UFO Radio on the artistfirst.com radio network. And of course, you can access his website, pyramidsonmars.com. These gentlemen are phenomenal. Please welcome both Kevin Estrella and Michael Lee Hill to my show this evening. Hello, gentlemen.
How you doing?
Hi.
Great. How are you? As I clear my throat.
Well, that was a whole lot to say.
I know. I cut it down too. I wanted to read the whole thing, Michael, and I was like, oh my goodness. But we'll get into it tonight. So
it's all good.
Yeah, it's wonderful to have both of you on. I'll tell you what, you're both incredible musicians, and if the listeners haven't tuned into your music, they've got to get switched on because I've never heard such beautiful music and obviously both of you use the 432 hertz, right?
That's right.
Well, I got to say, most of my music that is available right now was not in 432 because I wasn't hip to it yet, so they say.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's beautiful. I tell you what, I was listening to it. It's just absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of music that was recorded in 440 even has changed my life. Led Zeppelin is in
Right?
440, and so I'm not like anti 440. I just know it doesn't create any resonance. 432 is where it's at, and everything I will do from this point forward is in 432, because once you feel the difference, there's no going back.
I agree. It seems like it really activates the DNA. And that's one thing I have noticed also. And I like rock and roll, I like all music, but I can tell the frequency shift in my own energetic field when I listen to that music. And even with both of your music, I mean, both of you, it's very interesting. I could really feel that frequency shift. So, and I know there was somebody I think had an interesting experience, Kevin, that you want to dive into that real quick?
Yes, I
I
will.
think it's very, now should we warn everybody ahead of time or what?
Yes, I'm gonna have to put a parental advisory warning on my CDs. I was doing my radio show. It's called um, oh, what's my show called?
Uh-oh.
Why wouldn't we radio from Dallas, Texas? And it's actually growing quite a bit. And then there's a caller who called in, and he told me that he was listening to my music for the first time, Pyramids on Mars. And while he was listening to my music, a UFO appeared. Can you
Yeah,
believe that?
that's pretty
Yeah,
wild.
yeah.
Awesome.
So you're summoning, you're vectoring in ships through your music. What about you, Michael? Well, you do it naturally, right?
Actually, I use a lighter a lot. I'll be down at the lake and I'll flick my lighter at them and they do respond. But I'm moving into. I just bought a PA system that is actually, you can run 6 hours off of battery power that's already in the speakers with a subwoofer, and I got a new acoustic that has a beautiful pickup system in it. We can get into that. But I'm going to be taking this system right down to the lake and playing 432 right over the lake. I'm going to announce it if anyone wants to come down and participate in a frequency healing. I'm going to do it for free if anyone wants to check it out. But I'm really excited about. Yeah, we're going to
Wow.
call some in
When is that going to be, Michael?
this summer.
Oh man, I would love
I,
to be up there for that. That sounds fantastic.
well, I'm going to be posting it, and this system is very important to me. I'm talking about the PA system in itself because it enables me to the take 432 to sacred sites and parks and finding beaches along the lake, and having this new acoustic guitar that's built in a brand new way. It's carbon composite, so it resonates unlike anything I've ever played, and having it tuned to 432 and being able to bring that frequency, it's almost like there's only so much you can do about talking about 432 and showing what the frequency looks like through a cimoscope, this new scientific device. None of that is anything compared to hearing it. So that's what I'm really excited about this summer.
Right. Have either one of you worked on I know you said healing people, so have you worked on frequency in your music to heal people on an electromagnetic level, on an aura level?
Uh, that's a very good question. My discs, my crystal, the glass discs that actually have an image, it does exactly that. The actual frequency is so potent because, to get into just a quick example of why 432 is so important. E equals mc squared. Quantum physicists now know that everything is both particle and wave, but that is only the particle part of the equation. It's right there. M equals mass, E equals energy, C is the speed of light squared. Well, where's the frequency component? What you find is 432 squared is the speed of light within 1% accuracy. It's the only frequencies that are truly components of light. It will plug into that E equals mc squared formula. And when you work it backwards, then 432 frequencies squared becomes the speed of light squared times mass equals energy. This is actually the beginning of starting to understand how energy works in the universe and what Tesla was talking about.
Exactly. Where did you get your information from? It sounds to me like you just have a vast database in consciousness.
It's coming from above,
Right,
honestly.
exactly. So that's your off-world blood. We're going to get into that too. And also, what about you, Kevin? Anything to add to that?
Well, a lot of the stuff that I learned about 432 was introduced to me by Michael Lee Hill, who was, it was Grant Cameron who'd introduced me to Michael Lee Hill, and then I was doing my own research as well, and learning about the mathematics of how 432 falls within the Fibonacci, the golden ratio. It's in that, including all the harmonic frequency or the harmonic resonances of 432. And it just keeps going deeper and deeper in regards to it's where it shows up in nature everywhere. I mean, it even shows up with the moon. With the moon, the radius of the moon is 432 times 5, or is it 5 or 200? I can't remember. It's 5. I think it's a 5. And then the radius of the sun is 432 times 2 million miles. The orbit of Saturn around the sun is 432 times 2. Tiger Woods golf ball. How many dimples are on Tiger Woods golf ball? Just happens to be 432, which was designed by scientists for the most aerodynamic ball in creation. So this number just shows up everywhere.
Yeah, and it's also a 9 in numerology if you add those up, right?
Yeah.
That's a big number also.
That's very important, actually. The whole, because what you find out is Pythagoras is the one that found out to find a lower octave, because just because you got a piano tuned properly, like that middle note, A note, is tuned to 432, there's still a lower A note, and there's still a lower A note. They're called octaves for people who aren't musicians. So all you do is divide by 2, and what's really fascinating is the numbers that you're talking about, Kevin, with the moon and the earth. They're actually encoded into the lower octaves of 432 as well, because if you take 432 and divide it by 2, it's 216. And if you divide 216 to get the lower octave, it's 108. As we're talking about, every one of those numbers, 108 equals 9. 216 equals 9. 432 equals 9. And while
60 equals 9.
Yeah, and when you look at the moon, it's 1,080 miles to the equator. That's 108 with a 0 at the end, but it's 108 still. And some, like the Earth, from the outer edge to the middle of the Earth is 2,160. That's 1 octave below 432. And I mean, we're jumping ahead of ourselves here, but I've become a representative of the mound builders, who are truly the Atlanteans. And what you find out is these mound sites like Newark, Ohio, Serpent Mound, all of them are encoding these frequencies right into the dimensions and layouts of the mound sites. That one wall will be 1,080 feet long. The next wall will be 2,160 feet long. It's amazing that they, all along they've been trying to almost drip feed us the importance of these frequencies, even down to, our timekeeping that was given to us in Sumeria. Look at how many seconds is in 12 hours. It's 43,200. That's 432. Again. So even right into our timekeeping, they've tried to
amazing
guide us in the right direction.
Isn't that interesting? And what is your impression of the Schumann resonance spiking up big time lately?
What I understand is it follows the Fibonacci. And we were at 8 for a long time, and the natural evolution will be 13 hertz, because it just follows the Fibonacci. Then 21, and no matter what, we are animated Earth. Mm-hmm. Our bodies are Mother Earth. So if the Earth frequency is raising, we don't even have a choice. We're along for the ride.
Exactly. And I suspect the more you calibrate your frequency, the better ride it's going to be, right?
Yes, indeed. And it does all revolve back to 432. It's amazing. And honestly, once you do feel the effects of the frequency on your own physical body, I'll tell you how it's really easy. About the only person that's a famous musician was Prince. Prince was tuned properly to 432. And you know this because real late in his life, he was always anti-social media, and he opened up a Facebook account and he opened up a Twitter account. He said, for the next couple hours, every question that comes in, I'm going to answer it. He only ended up answering one question, and that was, should we be
retuning to 432?
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. His answer was the golden rule, and he put a link to, yes, why we should how do you tell the world we need to redo our national standard? But we do.
Right, exactly. You know what I love about both of you? It's really refreshing to have this conversation tonight. I'll tell you what, because I've seen such a weird twist in the music industry these days where it's just not, to me, they don't seem like real musicians. They're not in touch with consciousness or spirit or frequency. And both of you are so switched on, whether you're hybrids, which I know you are, and just your whole attitude and consciousness is such a nice, refreshing conversation about how we really are when it comes to our multidimensional design and the music that impacts us.
Yes.
Well, thank you, and right back at you. It's nice to have these conversations with like-minded individuals because, you know, they're rare for me as well.
Yeah, I
Well,
get so excited when I
yeah.
get to talk to, I don't know. I guess we're just different. We're off-worlders. I call us off-worlders, and just hybrid beyond hybrid. But yeah, I see a lot going on here on the timeline, and it's interesting you touched on the Atlantean technology and the
Hmm.
mounds because both of you also. That's another thing with the resonance effect and the frequencies associated with sound and music. That automatically connects to Atlantean technology, and from what I understand, America is almost like Atlantis rising right now.
It is. What's going to be announced, you know, it's really fascinating because what I'm going to share with you is confirmed by Edgar Casey. You know, a lot of people know that Edgar Casey stated about the Hall of Records and, you know, the Sphinx and it's under the paw of it. And, you know, a lot of people know he had some and they know he's one of the most accurate psychics ever just because of his health channelings or whatever you want to call them. But people don't really know yet that not only did he give prophecy about Atlantis in the Hall of Records, but he said what happened to the Atlanteans. And in a nutshell, he said that Atlantis didn't go down in one earth change. It was three. The first one happened about 50,000 years ago. The second one, and there was a migration from Atlantis to the right. He said Atlantis actually sat in the middle of the European continent and the North American continent. And so the first earth change, they went to the right. And then 27,000 years ago was what would be considered the biblical flood event. And they went to the right again. And then 10,500 years ago was the last earth change that totally sunk Atlantis. And for the first time, the elders kind of stayed behind with the sinking ship. And they went to the left for the first time. And they came up into the bottom of the North American continent. And they met the Mayans first. And, you know, the Mayans said, hey, this big dude, Cody Quetzal, showed up and he showed us how to make calendars and showed us how to, you know, make pyramids. And, you know, this was the bloodline coming up into the middle of the North American continent. But eventually it continued and it came up into the middle of the United States. It became what's known as the mound builders. And they were the culture that left these mounds. And people don't know this predates the Native American Indians by thousands of years. So what happened is eventually they did intertwine into mostly the Iroquois, which is actually 5 tribes of Indians, the Cherokee and the Sioux, all still hold this bloodline. And now, because of 1998, they found a brand new DNA haplogroup, and it was called haplogroup X2A. And anyone that's listening, just go type in haplogroup X2A. You'll find out what I'm saying is accurate. The only place haplogroup X2A exists on this planet is in the skeletal remains that have been removed out of these mound sites, which they're usually giants.
Wow.
And 3% of the Native American Indians still to this day have haplogroup X2A. But this is interesting in itself because I'm haplogroup X2A.
I was going to ask, yeah. Okay, I figured.
Yeah, we're not giants anymore. So a few generations ago, it's not debatable that we had stature from 9, 10 up to 16 feet tall. Now, it's almost like it kind of explains perhaps why abductions have still been happening. It's because the genetic work hasn't ended.
Right.
But so if you take a new DNA haplogroup that's found, you can go in the past, and when you find the highest concentration of that DNA, that'll show you where it came from, right? Well, where it is the hills of Galilee. It's Jerusalem. And, you know, this is weird to me because I actually got called a Zionist because they felt I was promoting God's chosen people. And I'm like, you don't even know me. I've always felt that there's old souls and young souls here. And, you know, God doesn't look at an acorn any less significant than the giant oak it will one day become. it's just a cycle of evolution. And I think we're all divine. It doesn't even matter whether you're homeless or whatever here. So I'm not promoting God's chosen people. I'm just saying this is where the evidence leads. You deal with it. You do what you want to do with it. But this is where the evidence is leading. And truly, it's very strange because all of this is about to be revealed very soon of who the Native American Indians truly are. And we can get into that.
Gosh, I wish I had a 20-hour show right now. But both of you are coming back. You know you're going to come back because this is the way it's going to roll. But it's interesting when you said the X2A blood type. That's fascinating. And how did they decode that for you? How did they actually find that?
That was in 1998, and it was actually just scientists for the first time. They were going through, up until this point, they just designated all these different haplogroups, which is looking back in time and seeing where a DNA type came from. And they would label them haplogroup A, haplogroup B, C, and D. And up until 1998, they only had A, B, C, and D. And they were going through the actual remains of these skeletons that were found in the mounds. And because that culture is so intertwined into the Native American Indians, they started to do some blood work from Indians. They said it could be much higher than 3% because most Native American Indians have not had their blood tested. Mm-hmm. But in the blood that they did test, they know that at least 3% of the Native American Indians have this bloodline. And I can tell you, I know it's true because now I've been taken under the wing by Chief Golden Light Eagle, who is a spiritual leader and the chief of the Dakota, Standing Rock is like, he's and they know exactly who they are. Mm-hmm. They've told me, I'll tell you point blank, he said, all extraterrestrial races have their own frequency and their own color. He said, for instance, the Arcturians are 444 hertz and their color is silver. He said, Michael, our race is 432 and the color is gold. We were here to mine gold. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory. It is. I've talked enough with them that I know that they know exactly who they are and how they're connected to these star beings, as they call them. But it's very interesting.
What's really neat, and I want to make sure Kevin talks too, but Anunnaki, obviously you're connecting to Anunnaki, but yes. The 432 now, that all tells me that it's all about alchemy right there.
Yeah, and it shows you they're the ones that have been trying to get us to become aware of how 432 is even significant. Because, let me share real quick. I met an Arcturian ambassador, and he's a very, actually, I've told you, Kevin, it's Dan Reed. He's a beautiful cat and great musician. But we were in the car, and he said, Michael, let's take our standard of today, 440, and divide it by 12. He said, we've been given this idea of dividing or multiplying a whole unit by 12 seems to be the way to go. And they've encoded it into our culture with 12 inches in a foot, 12 astrology signs, 12 hours, half a day, day and night. He said, let's take 440 and divide it by 12. What you get is 36.666666666. It just keeps going for about 20 spaces or something. It's kind of ridiculous. And he looked at it and he said, oh my God, this is pretending to be sacred geometry while still being an imposter. He said, let's take 432 and divide it by 12. What you get is a perfect 36. And as we all know, these numbers, anything with 432, they add up to 9. 3 and 6 is 9. Tesla said when we understood the magnificence of the 3, the 6, and the 9, we would unlock a key to the universe. Why I'm telling you this is like, even the Anunnaki gave us our number system and our system of keeping time right out of Sumeria. So when you look at our number system, 111 is 3, 222 is 6, 333 is 9, 444 is 12, which equals 3, 1 and 2, 555, 15 equals 6, 1 and 5 is 6. It just keeps repeating, 369, 369, 369. When you understand 432 divided by 12 is 369, it just blows my mind that, they've been trying to just wait for us to wake up to understand the significance. And this leads to free energy.
Yep. Absolutely. And what's interesting too, and just to touch on the gold part of mining gold, but to me that represents monoatomic gold and mana, a life force. I mean, the conversion of transmuting through all these elements, gold into something more based on immortality and also what we're about, which is prana, and how we really are supposed to ingest food. I mean, in my opinion, I think we're really supposed to be morphed into more light beings, but that's just me. But I think it's fascinating. And I was going to ask you, Kevin, do you have any connection insofar as have you had your blood checked or have you looked into that sort of thing with your blood type?
I'm type O positive, so I'm not really too sure what's special about type O positive.
It's really interesting, and to me, it would seem like it's all about the DNA and frequency activation anyway, right?
Well, it keeps happening with me, and and I don't know with this whole Schumann frequency that's gone up. I had 3 significant ESP moments that happened just this week alone. I'll get into them too.
Mm-hmm.
But it just blows my mind what happened in the last week. But there's another thing I was going to bring in regards to more of this mathematical consistencies with the 432. It also falls within to the zodiac, the circle of the zodiac, because we have 12 symbols of the zodiac, and a complete cycle of the zodiac is 25,920 years. If you take that number, 25,920, we know the importance of 60 in our timekeeping, 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, 60 times 432 is 25,920. In addition to this, what they found is by studying Stonehenge and the placements of all the different blocks in Stonehenge, because Stonehenge is layered. If you look at, they found that there's multiple layers underneath the ground, but by studying these Stonehenge, they've actually found these same numbers and consistencies. 432 falls within the Stonehenge too, so it's hidden in there too.
Right.
It's absolutely amazing.
It's really interesting because it seems to me like everything, as you were touching on, both of you were touching on, is that everything is a harmonic and a frequency, and it's about fine-tuning and understanding how to resonate with those frequencies in order to, first of all, activate your DNA, but expand your consciousness, and also interconnect throughout the universe with our what I call our star family.
Yes.
So it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating to me. And I was going to ask you, Michael, I wanted to touch a little bit on your experience and how you first encountered these UFOs. I'm sure a lot of people already know your information, but let's give them a quick rundown.
Well, I live really close to Lake Erie, and I've had contact my whole life, but it wasn't like this. Where they really let themselves be known was about 2005. And it actually started, me and my bass player, we were having a band rehearsal and we went out the back. He smoked cigarettes. I don't. He just, wanted to go outside to have a smoke. And we were out there talking and, right over the shore of Lake Erie, which was very close. Like I said, it's probably about a football field length away from where my house was to the lake, was a huge UFO. And we sat there and watched it for about 10 minutes and didn't get that one on film, but it sparked my curiosity to start finding beaches where I would go down. I would just go down around sunset, and I had a Sony camcorder on a tripod waiting, and if a big ball of light went by, I was ready to film it. And I started to accumulate quite a library, and some of it went viral, and to the point right now my YouTube page has over 4.5 million views, basically because of the UFO footage. And that's what brought the History Channel to my door. And I'm running through this real quick, but the History Channel is when they decided to fly me and another contactee to Boston. And because he was a Marine and they had found this blood anomaly that the military doctors couldn't explain. So the History Channel thought, wouldn't it be weird if both these guys that have the same story of contact, same orbs of light been filmed, and the same message given to them, which was kind of like become aware of what you're thinking about, like whole thoughts create reality,
right.
Kind of matter. But he had this blood anomaly, so they decided, without telling me, which they're probably smart, because I am such a baby and I don't like needles at all. But they asked me if I'd be willing to do an update to my segment on the UFO Hunters show, because at this point I was only about 5 minutes of the show, and they were doing a show on sky watchers. And what happened was they scrapped that whole idea and made the whole episode on myself and Terrell Copeland, the other contactee. So they flew us. They had this Harvard professor. His name was David Sistrom, and he's the one that did the medical testing and the blood work. And that's when it was revealed at the end of the show, actually. It was the last day of filming that I had the same blood anomaly.
Oh.
And they told me my plane was waiting for me. I'm like, whoa, hang on. This isn't a TV show anymore. What are you talking about? That my blood isn't normal. Do I have something to worry about? And he looks at me and goes, what do you think unknown means? I was like, all right.
Oh, very interesting. Wow. Yeah.
So that's how it all started up. And that's only up until 2008, though, because, from there forward in the summer of that year is when the Anunnaki met me face to face. Faceless, as it turns out.
You're going to have to talk about this. And I know, Kevin, I want you to chime in whenever you feel guided to. But what I find so fascinating is now you were recruited. Is that what they did? Did they kind of pull you into a certain labyrinth group or something like that?
That wasn't, hindsight, the leader of the labyrinth group was Anunnaki. But what Bill Burns had said in that History Channel show, anyone can watch it. The episode is on YouTube. It's called Alien Contact. But you'll hear Bill say, I think that you guys are being prepared by a behind-the-scenes governmental group to prepare you for meeting your ET higher selves. And I don't know how Bill Burns knew this, because that was before I met them in the summer of 2008. So it's a mystery to me how Bill knew this. And Bill actually said some other very strange things. In my house during filming, I walked in and it was just he and I in there. And he said, this is hard for me to even get into, because he just said some very almost flattering things, like, I'm very almost jealous of the role you have to play in the future between them and our world. And I'm sitting there going, what the hell is this dude talking about? But now in hindsight, everything's unfolded, and he's right. I was contacted by this group. They did give me a course of study, and it actually ended up to in 2012. The whole point of this group of the NSA and the remote viewers was leading up to 2012, and he formed a group of 7 of us that I was told all of us are of this hybrid bloodline. And the whole point was through telepathy, this was the remote viewers, to make contact with the incoming Anunnaki and ask for their help in some of the events that were transpiring. People think 2012 was a big non-event. They have no idea of the work that was being done behind the scenes to help humanity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can believe that. Now, when you talk about your telepathy, how is that? Are you telepathic now?
In a different way, I guess. Here's what happened and why I was brought into the Labyrinth group is they said, I'm not per se a remote viewer. What they said is I'm one of the only people that they've seen that I demonstrated that I can manifest reality.
Nice.
That I've brought forth. They said, a couple things that happened dealing with revealing the UFO subject that wasn't in the programming for the mass consciousness. And so they knew that if I put my mind to something, you find out Tibetan monks call this tulpas, and they would meditate and visualize with such tenacity the thought form of a revered monk that monk would manifest into the physical and with its innate consciousness and everything. So what our government did said, well, if that's true, and it is, then let's turn it into a technology where we can teach people to do it. And they called it LERM, Light Encoded Reality Matrix. And it's truly starting to learn how physical reality is created from light and sound. And obviously, we just said light, the speed of light, 432 squared. This is the key, because I started thinking, what happens when you find out that if you put 4 octaves below 432, it creates a 7-pointed star, which is interesting because that's also the Cherokee symbol for their people. But and
what you mean by that is through cymatics.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. But if you visualize in your third eye, a 7-pointed star, but simultaneously you've trained yourself. Get a Tibetan singing bowl that is like a crown chakra, about the size of a cereal bowl. They're all tuned to 432. So every day, if you sit there and get that bowl to sing and you hum along with it, then you stop and you can hum that note just mentally. You train yourself to be able to, even internally, hum a 432 frequency, even if you're not vocalizing it. So when you're trying to manifest something that you want into this reality, I've been starting to visualize a 7-pointed star while humming 432 frequency internally, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. Well, what you're describing is ascension. It's all about ascension and light body activation, and that's my passage too. I mean, it's DNA activation through Merkaba, and that's all about manifesting at will our own reality. So yeah, that's basically the path of the avatar. And most people who get activated on that level in consciousness usually know how to manifest reality. So yeah, I think that's wonderful. And yeah, I think it's fascinating. So it sounds to me like your consciousness brought in that ship, and if I'm not mistaken, your energetic signature is what's attracting those ships, not the location itself.
I would agree with that.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
And what about you, Kevin? I suspect you have that same kind of thing where you can actually bring things in through your state of consciousness as well.
Yes, it's I mean, I was contacted, my craft contact was August 21st, 2014, when an interdimensional craft flew within 100 yards of me across my backyard, and then it opened up a portal, and then it left. And then through verification through MUFON and also Grant Cameron and some other people, that it was confirmed that I was the only one who had contact with the craft. And then, long and short of it, all the synchronicity took place at the ACE, the Alien Cosmic Exhibition in Brantford, where it was, where I found, Stu Mundy, who took my report, who was the one who told me I was the only one who had contact with the craft, and Grant Cameron was there to explain why ETs are connecting with musicians, and that my sighting being an isolated incident is completely normal, and he called it the Oz effect, and just more and more and more. And then last year, it was the summertime, and I was doing a photo shoot with award-winning photographer Mark Marjanovic down by the Scarborough Bluffs in Toronto, where I was photobombed by a UFO. And
right.
and MUFON has that picture.
I've seen that.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I laughed when I
Cool.
saw that. Yeah, I remember you showing that to us the first time you were on my show, or a second. I think you were touching base on that.
Yeah. And now I have people calling in this week saying that they're listening to my music and a UFO is showing up. That actually is not surprising, because when we talk about consciousness and these what our abilities are, I am very connected to the universe, and the synchronicities in my life just keep happening more and more and more. I got some amazing stories I was going to share with you guys, things that came to my in my understanding the last several weeks. But so my that picture obviously shows that my star family know exactly where I am and what I'm doing at all times. They are always with me, and they protect me. But I get information downloads, and I don't understand always what they are. But I know when I was told, okay, this guy saw a UFO, I was already told that when I started playing live again, because I haven't played live in a year, but when I do start to play live again, they told me that UFO sightings will be a regular occurrence whenever I'm playing.
I believe that, both of you, actually. You know what's interesting? I'd love to see you both do a concert somewhere, and I think I told you this, Kevin, like someplace where there are pyramids, maybe in Egypt, but even someplace where you just have this real big open space in a desert. And wouldn't that be cool to have that, and then this kind of a vectoring in? That'd be kind of neat, huh?
Yeah. Well, I found out from Elizabeth April, who's my guest, my radio guest from January. She did a past life reading on me, and I actually have connection to ancient Egypt. I was there, but I was not human.
That makes sense. Yeah, I probably knew you. We're all probably knew each other on the timelines. And plus, you realize that there's such thing as a past, present, or future. We're all simultaneously existing in multidimensional space. So that's another thing. We're always there, and that's where we have that access, which I think is fascinating. But I'd love to see you both perform. And you know what I really like about this conversation too is that you're males. Now, I don't know how many men are out there that have this kind of higher consciousness, but wow, this is amazing and refreshing for me to have two to have a conversation with intelligent, expanded people like you, because I don't know how many men are in the industry, and no offense to anybody out there who's playing music in the industry as males, but I was looking for real role models in the male mode, doing this kind of thing with this type of information and technology and expansion of consciousness. What do you think?
I think it's awesome.
Well, I think it is too, but seriously, no. But how do you all know a lot of other people like yourselves? I'm just curious.
No, I don't.
Because I don't either. That's what
I gotta say, when I met the family, who is all around Chief Golden Light Eagle, excuse me, like I said, Solaris, in Colorado, there is a Star Knowledge Conference coming up. This is a group, because what this is the Native American Indian elders and chiefs and grandmothers very recently got the approval from Spirit, as they say, to start revealing their thousands of years of contact with, they call them the star beings, our star brothers and sisters. And, Chief Golden Light Eagle has been on Ancient Aliens already. So what these Star Knowledge Conferences is all these really enlightened people who have a lot to share because they've not been able to share this. They would have been killed not too long ago. Right. It was not until 1978 that Jimmy Carter signed the Freedom of Religion Act that they could even speak their ancient language. So this is something new for mankind, to be able to learn from these beings who have had this knowledge for thousands of years. And so, it's been very nice for me to meet a whole family of very enlightened beings. And you guys are family too. So I can't wait for you both to be able to just come and say hello and meet everybody.
Gosh, I'm looking forward to it. I must say, when is that going to be? So people who want to attend the conference, and I'm going to try and get down there myself. Now, it's in Colorado.
Yeah, February 26th. Go to starknowledgeenterprises.com, and you'll get, all the detail on it, all the speakers that's going to be there. And it's, I can tell you, every one of these, it's not random when it's happening. There is an eclipse happening, and everywhere that he has a Star Knowledge Conference, there's also a mound site. And I can tell you, those mound sites are on vortexes. They're on where ley lines cross, and there's massive energy. And so it's almost like he gets all these elders in one place, and then we'll go to the mound site and put our intent of manifestation of a better timeline ending for mankind. And so this will be happening because you'll find on February 26th, there is an eclipse happening. And this is an event scheduled around using the energy to shift us into a better timeline.
How powerful is that? And I'm so grateful it's going to be in Colorado. So I'm definitely going to get down there. I'm going to have to get down there and see you, Michael, because that's going to be fantastic.
Very cool.
Not that far away in the illusion of. So, yeah. That's pretty powerful stuff there. Kevin, you should, you're in Canada, but we got to get you over here sometime.
I know.
The Great White. Yeah. But, I was going to ask you real quick before we hit the break here. We've got 10 minutes plus or minus. But what about the Anunnaki? Why are people so afraid of the Anunnaki, in your opinion?
Because they don't understand. A lot of people have thrown the Anunnaki under the proverbial bus and saying that they're the ones behind the oil and banking families and all the secret societies. And what I'm bringing to the table is the oldest Anunnaki hybrid bloodline on this planet comes through the Native American Indians. What does the Native American Indians have to do with the Illuminati, skull and bones and all that? Nothing. Mm-hmm. Right. So
I agree.
They don't have the whole story. And this is fact. It ain't, it's not debatable. It's DNA science backing it up. So I think it's not the whole story, and a half truth is not a good truth.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And plus a lot of information, it's obfuscated, but plus they've reverse engineered a lot of things. And, who knows what's gone bad with that. But do you have some Native American blood in you, Michael?
Yes, I am Iroquois Seneca on my mother's side, almost pure blood. Found out my great-grandfather was pure blood Seneca. And on my father's side, I am Erie Montauk. It's interesting, too, because Montauk means pharaoh. And, Kevin, you saying that you were in Egypt. What we're going to find out in the very near future, that before that bloodline became Sumeria, it became Egypt. They were right here in Ohio. And this is, people don't even know this, but the first 10 Commandments written in ancient Hebrew was found in Newark, Ohio, in the Newark Earthworks. There was, and like I said, the bloodline was first found in the hills of Galilee for haplogroup X2A. People are going to have to wrap their heads around, this is home base, is East Lake, Ohio. And I have all the, I've got all this research that I'm going to be bringing out, newspaper articles showing the mound builders were first here. And they had a huge mound complex, had walls that were 660 feet long, which is all 432 related, by the way. But, and the next newspaper article I can show says the Erie Montauk were here in this area. That's Marduk's bloodline from the Anunnaki coming through the Native American Indians. And then later on, the Seneca of the Iroquois came to East Lake, Ohio, kind of kicked out Marduk's clan, and then they set up. So people are going to find out in the very near future, this is the New Jerusalem, or whatever you want to call it, East Lake, Ohio. And they were here before they went to Egypt. And like I said, you find out the Erie Montauk. Montauk means pharaoh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very royal. Well, that's very fascinating, and we can get into this off air, but I have a lot of interesting bloodlines too. Off air, I can tell you guys, but royalty, a lot of strangeness. But I'll tell you, it's a very fascinating thing when you start looking into that level of consciousness, because within the bloodline, there's so much data and what we call celestial heritage and cellular memory from not only our own ancestral bloodline, but also the star beings and their off-world species. And I agree with you that there's a twin here between Israel and America. I've always said that too. I mean, there's a connection in consciousness, and it goes way beyond the boundaries of man-made religion. There's something there.
I think it's a beautiful paradox in a weird way that, nothing against Christians, but most of the people that were killing Native American Indians were Christian. And here's the religion that's supposed to be looking out for this group of people. You know what I mean? And here, instead, because they don't have intelligence in the way they perceive it, they don't even know what they had to offer. But just because it wasn't what they thought civilization was, that that it was the biggest genocide on this planet. And that's what I say to people that want to say the Anunnaki are these evil people. I'm like, when you really understand the oldest Anunnaki hybrid bloodline comes through the Native American Indians, they suffered at the hands of this evil machinery of the Zionists and the oil and banking cabal more so than anyone on this planet. So
right.
It was a mass genocide. They went from there was like 60 million Indians in North America, and when they were done slaughtering them, there was they left just less than 1 million.
Yeah, some people put the number up to just in the genocide as high as 100 million, which means there was even more. People don't know. We've been told that there was nothing going on here before Columbus. That's just absolutely not true. There were cities like in Cahokia that were bigger than Rome, bigger than any cities on this planet, and they were functioning beautifully. The Iroquois themselves, their 5 tribes had been at war with one another for a very long time. And it's interesting because from Canada, this gentleman showed up called the Peacemaker, and he had some way of just healing their hearts, and they united, and that's why they're a confederacy now. But there's a lot to be learned here soon.
Absolutely. Well, the programming, it's entrainment programming. I've always touched on the mind control aspect of people being entrained into false belief systems. And I always believe that you take yourself out of the religious, spectrum and go into spirituality on a higher level of consciousness. And that really breaks the paradigm between constriction and all of these entrainment programs versus what we're really here and aware of with our multidimensional design. That's just me. But it's way beyond that spectrum, and that's what I love about you also, is that you're a teacher's teacher, obviously, Michael. I mean, you're a teacher, and I can tell both of you are teachers, but you have to be teaching classes, right?
I do a lot of presentations now for the Native American Indians.
I was going to say, you are a teacher. You're going to be out there doing more than you think. I'm pretty sure of that. So.
Hey, whatever God throws me, I'll swing at that softball.
Oh, I'm telling you. No, I think it's wonderful. And what about you? I know both of you are working on your music. Kevin, do you have any interest in teaching people also? I know.
My teaching is it comes through my radio show, bringing the story, bringing the the hybrids and the experiencers, them telling their story. I find, reverse engineering my life, I finally realized there's a reason why I have a degree in metaphysics and philosophy. I have a BA in metaphysics. Now I know why. It's because I'm always searching for the truth, the ADOS, the A-Day. And by bringing our stories, them all bringing their stories, when you start to listen to all of them, you start to realize they're all talking about the same thing. We really are all the same themes and the same thing. Everything that you said, Michael, about regards to our thoughts manifest reality. That's what the Greys taught Sherry Wilde.
Yeah, very true. And we're going to hit a break, everybody. You're listening to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. My incredible guests tonight are Kevin Estrella and Michael Lee Hill. I'm Solaris BlueRaven. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.